I used to think that there was voting involved for your skins, and it's apparently just there for fun because, as for upvotes are concerned, they hold no bearing whether Helk picks for the weekly skin store. So the weekly skin store, I guess they do it once a week, and that must be your weekly update for Rust. And he chooses one. Probably from any category. I don't know. Specular maps and gloss. I never got an answer out of that, so you're just going to have to kind of check it out. We'll get further into that after. And then the anime, well, people know how I feel about that. You cannot edit the models. And the reason why you can't edit the models is because when you go to skin and you send those pictures, or the maps as we call them, up online, whatever you attach these images to for the models up here, it's going to follow the UV specs. And what UV specs are is, if this was just a box, they might have it unfolded where this part would fold up and over, this would be a face down, and then these two would fold out, or it could be reversed. Who knows? I mean, you can tell when you download it by looking at it, because we're going to use Blender to check it out. So this right here are your maps that make up this model. You can't edit the model because people will not have those models on their PC, and if you were to download everyone's model, well, Rust is already getting to be a pretty heavy program for your PC or game. It'd be substantially longer if you go back through my other videos. So, let's choose something. This looks like it's pretty good, but I want another item. So, this right here is one model. When you use things like weapons, or there's other types of moving parts, a lot of times that model, so when you open up a door or something like that, that's all programmed into the model. If you don't program that, it could crash the game. There's a lot of reasons why you can't upload your own models and you can only use just the skins. Items like the AK-47, which was a goddamn nightmare for me to figure out. That is actually made of 1, 2, 3, 4 different models, all of which have different skins attached to them. Something like this, I think Substance Painter would be great for. But again, Substance Painter is a little bit, and the whole point is to do these skins for free. So that would defeat the purpose. You do not need Photoshop. You can use GIMP as well, and you do not need to download Unity. There is another item that you're going to need to download for Blender. I use Blender to increase the model size, which I'll show you in a second. And you also need Blender if you want to go ahead and wrap it around and see how the skin looks wrapped, even before you go through this and you have all the programs opened up at once. Good item to do for this that would probably be pretty quick is the hammer. Alright, so we got a hammer. This is a single model, or an SM. We're going to download it, and it's an OBJ file. So, 2021. Hammer. Hammer.obj. Save. We don't need any of these maps. And some people were having problems depending on what model they were trying to download. I tried to replicate the problem. There was a couple times that I could. It was not downloading these for the life of me. Well, guess what? With this tutorial, it's 2021 tutorial, the real one, not my rehashed information. You don't need that. It's lightweight because it's a OBJ file. We have it. There we go. We're done. That's it for Rust. The next thing you're going to want to do is open up your version of Blender. And in Blender, you're going to want to put in that plugin down at the bottom. It's called Text Tools. Go ahead, scroll down. I'll wait. See it in the description. You might have to see more. Yeah, that one right there. Text Tools. All right. So click that. Download it to pretty much anywhere that you're going to remember where it's at for your PC. And then right here, you're going to click on Edit, preferences, and underneath add-ons, you're going to want to install one and then choose where you put the install path. For me, I put it right into my C drive, text tools. And then as soon as you have that, it should show up right away, but if it doesn't, start to type in text tools, make sure that it's checked. So we have all that ready to go. Let's get into Blender a little bit. You're not going to need a whole heck of a lot, but I'm turning on the screencast keys so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Middle mouse means I'm pressing down on the middle mouse and then I'm moving it around. Holding shift and middle mouse, you pan. If you haven't used Blender, spend about 45 minutes just zooming in and out, hitting shift and A and adding a couple primitives by hitting mesh and then choose your primitive. So we'll do shift, ball. There we go. Cool. And then hit X to delete, just so you know how to use this. Scrolling in and out moves it around, and if you hit shift and tilde, you can actually use W, S, A, D, E to go up, Q to go down. And then when you get to the area that you want to, you left mouse button. You click the left mouse button. All right, so now that we have this, when it first starts up too, it won't be a blank screen like this. I set this up as my display, so there's absolutely nothing in here. You probably are going to have a camera, and you're probably going to have a light. So light's probably here, camera's probably like, I don't know, somewhere around here or something. You'll see two objects in here, and then of course you're going to see the fabled cube. First thing, delete them. Highlight everything, hit delete, gone. You don't want anything in your collection, you just want nothingness. Now what we need to do is we need to file, and we need to import the OBJ that we brought in, which would be C 2021, and then there's hammer.obj. And we're going to zoom in. Now right here, it's getting kind of tough. Things are getting a little hairy. So if you hit Shift and C, it'll center it right where the hammer is. So we'll try that again. Shift and C, boom. Now we can rotate around it. We can see it pretty well, and we have no maps on it. However, if you hit UV editing up at the top, and then over here on the left-hand side, where you choose the synchronization UV sync, you now have this whole area just unwrapped. And if you were to download the map and assign it, you would see that some spots are blank, some spots have other things. It's kind of funny to see, them use the same map for multiple objects, except instead of having the polygons here, they'll have them over here. Smart. Save space, and it cuts down on files. Before we do anything, to make it a little bit easier available, we're going to hit S to scale, and then we're going to scale it by 20. Yeah, makes it 20 times the size of what it was. And the reason why we're going to do this is because when we're dealing with height maps, normals, a tiny object where all the polygons are kind of scrunched together, when we're using bigger maps to go ahead and add our details, it's not going to come out the way, and you're going to get some object tearing. You don't want your object to tear where the seams are, because it's just going to look like garbage. So to avoid that, we increase the size right off the bat. After that, we go into our text tools. So with our text tools, like I showed you, we can make them like any color. I probably am going to change my mind as to what I want to do. But in text tools, underneath UV editing, I'm going to give the whole thing, hit A, the red color. And then from there, let's just go all the way up. Now, notice how these are being colored right here. Holding shift. Going to color that in. I'm going to hit Control on this because I don't want this to have any bearing. Cool. We'll do a rock. And hitting Alt-Z, I will go right around. Now it's coming off because I'm not holding Shift, but when I do, it's like that. You could also, again, press 2, or 2 for the lines to do the lines, but then you're going to have to get these tops too. Best thing to do is either use your points or your faces. So 3 or 1 is your friends. Alt-Z. Cover over that. That'll be something else. Heck, we'll make it a grip. So now that we have that, we'll make this green. And then we're going to do at 1024. Let's bake our map. And to bake our map, you just go into baking. Some people had problems when they were baking. I choose diffuse because you're using just the plain diffuse colors. It's nothing special. They had to go over here and they had to change it from Eve to cycles in order to get it to work. So if it doesn't work the way that I show you, try changing it over to cycles. So we do that, we hit bake, and there we go. That's pretty much all we really need it for, or need Blender for. You can always come back later, add more colors, whatever, it doesn't matter. But right here underneath hammer, you're going to notice that you have all these colors attached to the model. Mixer is not going to take them. So you can go ahead and get rid of all these colors now. Take image, save as, right here. Hammer diffuse underneath C. 2021, hammer diffuse, save as, and then we're now going to export this model that's 20 times the size as an FBX, and same thing, C 2021, hammer. Go ahead, sign up for Mixer. We're using 1024. This will be hammer. No, do not save changes. When you have Mixer up, first thing you're going to do is you're going to bring in your custom model, hammer.fbx. There we go. And then we're going to need to tell where each texture or texture set is going to go. Keep in mind, we didn't have to download anything because all that information is automatically built into the model. We're just telling it what needs to be pasted. It already knows where. So we're just following the rules and going from there. We have texture set. It's at 1024. Perfect. Material ID. And then down at the bottom, your material ID that coincides with it. Hammer diffuse. That's it. That's all you need for that. So exit out of that now. And underneath layers, we're just going to start adding our layers here. You can download a bunch from Mixer, although I don't know if they like you to. I don't think you're supposed to use it for something like Unity. We now have varnished wood. Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to use it for something other than the Unreal Engine, or in some cases the Unity engine. I don't think these textures were made to go into the actual, like, they all come with a disclaimer. Now, so to get around that, what I do is I download my own texture sets, and I made something called My Textures, and these are all from textures.com, or ones that I've made. So if you use textures.com, just make sure you put in the disclaimer and then go from there. Let's do layers. These layers aren't showing up, so I'm going right here, clicking on this, new layer. So we have layer set 1. There we go. Right click, delete. Here's your varnished wood. Box projection, you have different settings. I like to tile them because it's easier to work with, especially when you're doing something like repetitions and all that other fun stuff. And this, if you hit 9 or 8 while you're in there, we can see where the color ID is. I want the wood to be where the green is. So when I right click on varnished wood, I add the mask ID of the green, and then there we go. That one's right there. Cool. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add stone. What do we have for stone? Ooh, jungle green stone. Again, placement is going to be tiling, and play around with it. I mean, it all depends on, what you want to do, on how you want it to look. So we have these right here. This is kind of shiny, so you can mess with the specular maps if you really want to, but I'm going to layer over something else on that. These right here, the other two, actually we could probably make that kind of a leather. No leather. What do we have for paper? Wrinkled paper. Concrete. Everybody likes concrete. Marble's nice too. So I'm adding marble into it. And we have the marble, and then we have this right here. But again, we can change the ID mask, and I can add the red to this. So now I have 3 separate ones, and then this one, again, we have what other textures to work with. Right click, add ID mask, and blue. So we'll set that to blue. Now you can add decals and things like that to it. Marble kind of has a marble look. Let's change the height and the specular to this. That wraps around very nicely. Local library, my textures. I'm going to get rid of these, and because there are a couple that I like. Dragon skin leather. This is covering the whole thing because we didn't assign it to one spot, which we want it to be the blue, I believe. No, we want it to be the green. Add ID mask. This will go just to the green. So now it looks like a charred wood. So we're sort of mixing them together, all these different textures, and I can kind of put these two, which one goes which. So I'm going to add that to tiling. I'm going to bring up how many times it repeats. And from there, I am going to go rotate it so that it goes the other way. And height frequency. You can bring up the height frequency. And then the threshold, how powerful it actually is. I'm going to bring that down. And then bring the lower frequency so it kind of goes in and gives it that used look. Height frequency all the way up. There we go. Now it kind of looks like a pleather type deal. And you can do that with the rock too. Just mess around with it. If you wanted another banner in here, you would just highlight it, add an extra color to it. Or you can export this whole thing, redo it, and then have this come in. This right here, I do not like that. Let's do tiling. And we are going to rotate it a different angle. And, yeah, probably want something on the face there too. But let's give it like a metal. Yeah, definitely like a metal look. There we go. So there's steel battered. Add ID mask, and same thing. We're going to put it right on the red. So now it looks like a hunk of rock metal. Not bad looking. Change it to tiling, and then bring up the repetitions. Yeah, that's way too much. We'll go with 4. And then just change your height frequency to really give it the depth, give it a little bit more defined. After you're done, you might want that to be wood. All you got to do is just export it. So underneath your export, it's a custom export. It's going underneath C 2021. I want it to have a subfolder so that it's nice and neat. Everything's got to be nice and neat. And the asset name is hammer. Okay. Let's throw in the gloss map. It's going to be 1024, and we're just going to export that to disk. These are metalness maps. If you do specular, same thing. We'll add roughness. We'll export that to disk. I don't want to deal... Okay, so let's do the specular maps. I'm not going to mess around with the metalness too much. Let's jump back into Rust. And we're just going to click on this C 2021. Here's our hammer. Albedo. We'll see which one works better. Here's our normal map. And they're all kind of put out right there for you. Specular gloss. Let's do specular because it's metal. AO. Our AO. And there's no real emissions. So that's how it looks without pretty much anything else. That map is And that's because we use specular. So let's go to metalness maps. We'll do the same thing, and we'll export it since we're dealing with a much shinier material here. Exporting them. Jump back into here. And we'll do hammer diffuse. There. Hey, already right off the bat. Specular gloss. Let's choose gloss. And you can change the glossiness, how glossy the metal is from there. Same thing. Let's change our AO. AO should be pretty much the same. This is our diffuse map. Alpha cutoff, no. And then we will do open. Alright. So diffuse it is. There's our normal map. Here's our diffuse. There we go. And we're going to have our specular gloss. Again, they never answered that question. And you're basically getting exactly what we put in there. Yeah. When you're done, same thing as all the other ones. Just give your file name, click publish, and export it.